Okay, so I made an attempt to make the lighting not suck as much because I'm gonna sit on the floor. Um, Somehow it's just as bad, and my hair has decided to start migrating to the standing up position. Okay, so here's the deal. I am going to talk about real quick because this could be a diatribe that lasts like forever, but things that I think sometimes people kind of, it changes your life path because you are doing things that you think are expected of you. Society and gender based. The problem is that I can really only speak for a small amount of men and a lot of part of women. You know what I mean? So here's the thing. I grew up and I didn't really have any boyfriends until like I was a junior or a senior in high school. So I kind of was good with that. I never really wanted to deal with all that kind of crap. I guess you could call me asexual. I mean, that would be the new term they give to me nowadays. So anyway, I kind of had like 1.5 boyfriends, and then I graduated high school. We broke up because he was in college and I had some health issues, and it wasn't a salty ending. Okay, it was just, and no one said anything. I mean, most of my life, no one had like this, you're gonna have to get married, or, expectations like that. No one put those on me. The expectations that were put on me were more like, you need to go to college or trade school or something. Because let's be realistic, most people aren't gonna make money enough doing like the being famous thing that people want to do, because it's just how stuff is, and I didn't have a problem with that. I continuously said I didn't want to get married and I didn't want to have kids. So how did I end up in this predicament, divorced or separated, and I have a kid? Right, everybody hear me? Right? Okay, so here's the thing. It wasn't like a spoken thing. My family never went, when are you getting married? When are you having children? Like, no one did that shit to me. I'm not gonna say anybody did. Sorry. No one did that to me. I'm not gonna say anybody said, you need to get married, or when are you getting married, or why don't you have a boyfriend, or... My family's pretty cool like that. By family, I mean like my mom and her side of the family, because I don't really associate with the other side of my family. It's kind of sad, but in the same way, I think it's relatively a good thing. It depends. Everybody's family's different. We're not talking about that. So like, I didn't have any relationships. I went all the way through my last year of radiology school where I met my now ex-husband. He was finishing paramedic clinicals. I don't know what you call those. But he wasn't living in Georgia. He was in Georgia, in Atlanta, for the program, because the hospital, which I will not name to save myself grief, is like one of the biggest hospital burn centers in the southeast, like southeast of the country. I didn't grow up in Georgia, so I don't know how to put that. Let's just put it, if you get burned, you go there. If you're like in Alabama or Georgia, or probably like really south in Tennessee, I'm pretty sure by that point you would be going to another hospital that is closer. But so anyway, I was there for school as well, and I was in the dorms, and he was having a short stay in the dorm, and we met each other, and that was not a sexual, ooh, should I not say that word? It was not a relationship short of friendship, because I didn't really want anything else, and plus guys, he was married. So I was just happy to have someone to talk to, because my college-ish time was really hard for me. I was supposed to be living in my father's house that he wasn't supposed to be living in, because he was supposed to be in Ireland, and going to school, which means I would really be like taking the subway into the city every day. Retrospectively, that probably would have been crazy, but instead his job moved him back to Atlanta, and he brought a wife and some children. I don't really get along with him that well. Like, just the thing is I couldn't stay. That's what I'm getting at. I couldn't stay. We had an issue where he didn't want me to run the air conditioning. Have you guys ever been down south in the summer? Yeah, that's not an option, okay? So I bought an in-window air conditioner and just put it in my bedroom window because I didn't want to die, and I had already gotten a kidney infection from being so hot. And so the thing is like, I did that. He got mad. I got kicked out, essentially. I had to move. I had already been accepted to this program, which you have to do like a year or two in advance. And so I had to move back home to Michigan for 2 months and then move back to the dorms. I'd never spent any of my college time in dorms, because living in the equivalent of a hamster box is not something I am a big fan of. I don't get along with other people that well to, like, live with them. Hence, not having a significant other. Just, no. I think the way I keep sane most of my time is because I don't spend a lot of time with other people. That doesn't work for everybody. I think it just sort of works for some people. I know it works for my mom, so I'm figuring we kind of all are in like the same area of things that work for us. So anyway, I moved back down there and I was alone, and I was still working like a cashier job at a grocery store, but they're open 24 hours in Georgia, so that meant my 40-hour like shifts of clinicals didn't affect my weekends that I was working. Anyway, I met him, so my point is I was alone, and it was nice to have someone to talk to who wasn't like a sorority girl. I'm not a girly girl. I don't do like Bible camp, church. I wasn't raised in the South, and most of those girls were, and most of them, by the way, there was guys, just not as much, or the ones that I don't know. Anyway, so it was like a co-ed hall. That's not my point. My point is more like I didn't get along with the crowd that is near my age or younger than me, because I don't share the common interest of like drinking or church or high couture shopping. So, well, plus I made like $75 a week, so no. Anyway, like, so what I'm getting at is that we got along. He was only going to be there for like 3 months, but I didn't actually talk to him or actually encounter him until he had like 4 weeks left. I don't know how that worked. I just kind of hid in my room, or I was working real late. And then he left, and I would say that was probably the very first segment of like my last year. And I didn't talk to him. I emailed once in a while just saying, hey, how are you doing? I didn't expect an answer because I knew he was married. I didn't want to threaten anything. I was just like, hey, you gave me your email, said I could check to see how you're doing. That's all I'm doing. You don't have to answer. Bye. And then I never said anything. So I guess this is just going to be a story about my relationship and then how I feel that people get pressured into doing things. I'm sorry, I messed up. So anyway, we didn't talk for a while and I was getting real sick real often. And I was in the hospital a lot more and I was missing a lot of time in clinicals. And at this point, I had moved into a separate dorm of my own with no one else, like citing my anxiety as an issue. And the dorm I was in was like built in the 50s and I think they've demolished the building now. But so my point is there was cracks in the wall, there's some big ass, like as big as your thumb cockroaches, and it was owned by the hospital that we did clinicals in. So funny, right? It wasn't attached though. So it was like deplorable conditions is what I'm saying. Like deplorable conditions. We're talking about like big ass bugs. When I first moved in, we had like these weird little bathrooms. It was like a toilet and a shower, and like the two rooms that were next to each other shared the one toilet shower combo. We each had a door. It was kind of weird, but it used to be nursing quarters when it was a nursing school. And I mean a long time ago. They didn't have Wi-Fi until my second year of being there. And that was because I was like, dude, I can't do my assignments if I don't have internet. And plus I didn't have TV and I wasn't going to pay for like, never mind. Anyway, so the thing is it was like deplorable, gross conditions. And I was unhappy. I was having a hard time working because I was sick a lot and I was missing things, and I was just at a breaking point in my life where I'm sitting there going, I don't know anymore. I don't know what to do anymore, because at the time people had said I might have dysautonomia, but they said nothing about it, and I knew I had gastroparesis, but I never even thought about it because I was basically told it's not a big deal, whatever. So they had me dosed on like Ritalin so I could consciously like follow what was going on, because I was like starving to death slowly, and I was getting kidney failure because of potassium and the dehydration from throwing up and the lack of nutrients. And on a whim, I found his phone number and I called him because I was driving around like I do oh so often when I'm trying to like get over anxiety, and he actually answered the phone. And it got really weird because I'm telling you what I knew at the time because it wouldn't be fair if I told you what I knew now. So at the time, his wife had kicked him out or something and they were getting a divorce, and he was like, this was October. But in Georgia, it's like still 80, So he was in Idaho, which is like way colder. And he was camping. And he said he was going to shoot himself. And I just happened to have picked up the phone. Romantic. Anyway, I talked to him a lot. I mean, we ran up like a ridiculous phone bill. That's retrospectively, I didn't know it at the time. I talked to him a lot, and it went 0 to 100 really fast. I didn't think about it because I was so happy to have someone talk to me who like wasn't gonna think I was doing something to myself or whatever. I don't really know. I don't know. So it wasn't that long. It must have been like November or October, because in December on my break, we had like 2-week breaks every now and again because it was all year. So anyway, when it was break for like wintertime, Christmas, it didn't work with Christmas very often. He came down and spent some time in a hotel because he was applying to work as a paramedic at the same hospital I was, still doing clinicals at, and we spent a lot of time, and he accidentally broke my wrist by falling on me. Not in a way you think. We were running across the street and he tripped over a pothole. So surprise, it was his introduction to our family, because someone had to help me get home, because they had to do surgery, but they couldn't do it until after the new year. So anyway, that kind of like 0 to 100. And he went back to California, because that's where he's actually from. And he was living at his brother's house in like a trailer in the backyard. And we do whatever the Facebook kind of like chat thing where you can see each other. It doesn't work real well. Anyway, we did that a lot because we were both pretty much at our wit's end. And I might run out of time on this video. Anyway, so that's how it worked. And he eventually, like, by January or February, he got an apartment up here, haha, Atlanta. And that you know, at some point I moved in because where I was living was, like I said, deplorable. Like, I only had hot water, my shower like grew gross stuff, so I didn't want to get wet ever, and I was getting really, really sick. And he kind of helped me through that. We had to go to a lot of things, and I'm not going to cover that because that's kind of separate. But anyway, I was kind of pressured to, like, my mom was like, take your time, and I was kind of caught up. I've never been caught up like that, and I think I was caught up out of, like, literal desperation and not being sure why somebody wanted to live with me when I am kind of crazy in other ways. Even if it's not, like, a legitimate diagnosable problem, I am not a good person to live with. I get stressed out. A really little apartment. We, got married in 2013 in December, like after I graduated, and we had already been kind of living like we were married previously, but we just went to court and got married because, like, I'm not big on girly girl weddings, and I'm kind of glad that I let my mom plan it, and we did a really, like, abbreviated version later. I started to get really bad anemia problems as well, and I think that was around February. And at that point, we weren't trying to have a kid, but we weren't trying not to, because I got told I would not be able to have a child at the body fat percentage and other issues I have level. So it wasn't the biggest worry in the world, but then I found out the day before my birthday that I was pregnant. I was terrified and happy, but here's where I'm gonna, like, pause the story, because I was kind of duped into getting married, and I say that in the nicest way possible. It wasn't my mom, and it wasn't my, like, family. It was society's expectation that because I had maybe finished college or I wasn't going to be able to work, I should get married, because that is what people do. And we had a child, not because I wanted one or didn't want one. There's a few things. Getting married for me meant that I had to do things that married people do. I would be abbreviating this to say, nowadays, I would be classified as asexual. But I was told that that was, like, you know, growing up in the time that I grew up, like, that was a insult. There we go. That gets lobbed at you for being like that, okay? That's how things were when I was growing up as a adolescent and a teenager. Is if you wanted to be insulted, you got called asexual. It wasn't being gay, it was the asexual part. I'm not going to go into a lot of things about this. I don't enjoy things. I don't want those things. I did it because in order to keep the person you're in a relationship with happy, and when you're married, what I feel like you're contractually obligated to do via how society behaves or behaved when I was growing up, it kind of, I'm not proud of this. It sneaked into my psyche, and that's kind of how I ended up where I am in some ways. Is that it sneaked into my psyche, something that, you know, you're programmed to hear over and over and over growing up. You know, it's like always like it's in the TV shows and everything else. You don't think about it. It seems innocent enough, right? But I don't know. I feel like it's not. I feel like people should be told it's okay if you don't want to do that. If someone doesn't want to love you for you and they're only going to stick around for that certain thing, no. No, it's okay. You don't need that person that much, do you? And it didn't seem that bad to me. It did, but that's retrospectively. It did. At the time, I guess it didn't, because I knew I was depending on someone to be able to give me insurance and other things to survive, because I didn't have disability. I was too proud to apply for that shit until after I had my child. And at that point, I think I already knew I was going to have to leave the marriage. So I stuck around. I dealt with the arguing. I dealt with the, like, consistent, like, expectations of what I would call almost like 1950s housewife, except for I'll tell you what happened at the end, why it seemed like that, but I think there's other things at play. There's a lot of codependence, a lot of like anger and yelling, not from my side. I mean, the yelling happened, but it wasn't started by me. And then I got pregnant, and like all relationships that are like this, people promise to change, and it doesn't mean they do. But my doctor pretty much was like, you might want to, like, not take this pregnancy on. And the thing is that, like, I knew I wouldn't be able to have another kid, and I was kind of, like, conflicted. And I love my kid so much. So I kind of, like, not going to say that it was a bad choice, right? But I think in retrospect, it was a bad choice because it makes things more complicated if you have to leave a relationship. I don't know why. There's like weird shadows right there. Anyway, it makes things hard if you have to leave a relationship. But at the same time, if I didn't have my son, I would still be in a relationship that makes... I didn't care if I died some days. Like, I was so worried and scared about everything I did and everything I said and everything that I would be in trouble or get yelled at or anything else, that I think it was best that I had my son and went, no, this is not okay for him to grow up with and think is normal to do to, like, your significant other or women, depending on how you want to look at that. Doesn't really matter, does it? Because there's all kinds of people with those personalities. But that's where we start with that kind of thing. Like, there was, I had a high-risk pregnancy. It was high-risk because of me. There was other things that I'll talk about later, and, like, something about, like, my son. Like, I'm never gonna, like, try and exploit him, but I'll explain that later, because I feel like that's not part of this expectations. And I put up with it, and my mom came when I had my kid, and they, like, got in a brutal yelling match. And the thing is that's when I kind of realized it wasn't okay. I already knew it wasn't, but that's when I applied for the Social Security without really saying anything, and I just promised my child as I cried every day over my newborn that I should be happy with, that I would make sure that he didn't hate me for sticking through that. And the thing is because those expectations, I can't think about when my child was... Okay. I can't think about when my child was a little bitty baby. Because... I can't do the ugly cry on here, man. Because I only can... Like, my body and my brain flashes back to the anxiety and the sadness and the worry and the fear and stuff, and like the yelling and me holding that little baby and telling them this is not going to be the rest of your life. But because I stuck it out and I thought that that's what I should do and not tell my family until, you know, they experienced it, because we stayed at her house for a little while and we moved up here quickly, I should have said something. Because he didn't spend that long of his little life listening to that. And if I sound upset, or he gets that, like, feeling of anxiety or, like, fear or sadness for me or people around me, he loses his shit. And he has to sit with me and, like, cuddle on me, because he was programmed in utero. And up until he was, like, July, 7 months old, so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying expectations with that are kind of weird. I never followed those expectations so closely. Like, I didn't like dresses and like girly girl, but I fell into it like almost subconsciously when I got to the dating marrying age. And for me, I guess a dating age might not be 23 for most people, but anyway, so that I just thought I should talk about that, because I've seen, and it makes me so happy that it's becoming more and more acceptable to be like, I'm gay, I'm bi, I'm lesbian, I'm asexual, or whatever you are inside. Or, you know, I look like a girl in my part area, but I'm pretty sure I'm a boy, like transgender. I am so glad that that is becoming a little more acceptable for children and teens to say that that is how they are, because that is also part of this gender expectation that's been kind of like beat into people subconsciously. And I think it's like almost, you know, every movie and everything, like, I don't know about now. I stopped watching movies like after I got out of high school and stuff. I don't know if it's like by choice or I found YouTube and I just found the light of things that I didn't have to watch that were like, nah. But my point being is, like, I'm a documentary girl, but you know what I mean. Like, it's just the kind of thing I think is sometimes important to explain from a, you know, like a straight, not as young as some of the people who have been raised where it's a little more acceptable. I mean, you can live in the Bible Belt and it probably still isn't, but I'm very sorry about that. I think that's important sometimes. I think it's important for me to let it out, because I've tried before. Like, I like to wear makeup sometimes when I feel like it. I like having long hair, but it's a pain in the ass. So I've always like really just wanted to shave it all off. Society has programmed me to keep it like this, because not only does my hair grow weird, but I think I'd be a little more judged. And I don't need that in my life right now. But I want my son to see it's okay. You know, I've chosen to wear leggings all the time. Not as a sexual thing, because I'm lazy and it's comfortable. But I'm going to cut this off because it's getting to 30, and it seems like YouTube is like 33 is their magic number. So I'm going to come back to some of the relationship things, because I know I left you at a cliffhanger at like, you know, like why was the marriage bad? What was happening? How did I get out of it? And I feel like that is also very important to share, because there are a lot of people who kind of like me, God, my nose looks big in this angle. Anyway, kind of like me, have this thing where you're ashamed, or maybe you're too proud, or something else tells you, like, this is what it must be like for everyone, so therefore I should keep my mouth shut. So I've got to make another video later, probably tomorrow. I'm kind of tired, so like, I've got to make another video saying like, what happened in the marriage, and how do I get out, and how hard is it, and how do I, like, you know, I don't have words for what I'm looking for. I'm sure somebody does. But I think it's important to know that, like, it is important. You matter. Like, and if you think something's not okay and you keep convincing yourself otherwise, because like even TV relationships have a lot of yelling and fighting, and it's just like, oh, it's okay, they still love each other at the end, and it's not like that all the time. Like, I can still have a good relationship in some ways with him, and he can still want to be married to me, but if there are things that make you not want to wake up or deal with the day, then it's maybe something you can consider to get out of. It's not really a gender stereotype that happens in every gender type of relationships you have, including sometimes even friendships, but I think that's a separate thing to talk about. I kind of wanted to like get out the gender expectations because sometimes I feel like people don't realize it's kind of important to talk about, or like for me, it's kind of important for me to like get this out. Even if none of y'all watch it, it's important for me to get it out because I feel like it's important for me to say how I feel about certain things. Like, I don't care if I have boobs. I'm fine with it. I'm a girl. I still have the other parts. If I don't have boobs, I don't care. It can make me feel self-conscious when people are, like, I don't know how to say about it, but at the same time, if you don't care, it might take you till you're 28 to be like, okay, you know what, I don't care anymore. This is what I like. I'm not following your stereotypes. I'm not following how I feel like I should do when it's not what I want to do. So, all you warriors out there, take a deep breath, close your eyes, breathe in and out. There's another day coming, and there's always another time to try to make it right. It's not always going to seem like you're getting anywhere, because that's kind of how I feel like all the time. But at the same time, like when I'm doing this, and this is like my first day, and I've watched my videos that I make because I'm obsessive. I felt better watching my own self talk about my own anxiety. So I'm going to keep doing this. Because I don't have $300 an hour to pay someone, and I really don't want to waste that time, because a lot of people don't have any extra help unless they're, getting the wrong problem. And I'm going to have to get a different camera angle, because this looks like I'm growing like a mini mole mustache, and I am not. I will talk to you all tomorrow. I hope that you at least can lay down your head and realize when you wake up tomorrow, it's not maybe going to be easy, but you made it.